everyone, I'm Larissa Russell of Creative You, and I'm your host of the Creative Soul Healing Podcast. Here's where we talk about the connection between creativity and healing by interviewing amazing creatives, spectacular healers, and inspiring people who have used creativity in their healing. What does it mean to be creative? What is creativity? You don't have to write a best-selling book or paint a masterpiece or even play in a rock band. Creativity is in everything that we do, in the ways we think, in the way we run a business. In our everyday lives, we are creative all the time. Let's talk about how we are creative and how creativity helps us heal mentally, physically, and emotionally, right now on the Creative Soul Healing Podcast. Hi, everyone. I'm Larissa Russell of Creative You Healing, and welcome to the Creative Soul Healing Podcast. Today, I have with me Alisha Wielfaert. Alisha was part of our second annual Loving, Healing, Creating Summit we ran in February and shared with us an intuitive writing workshop. You can still get access to the summit at www.creativeyouhealing.com. So Alisha is a creativity, transitions, and resiliency coach who lives by the motto, we rise by lifting others. She is the creator of the Yoke and Abundance Wise Woman Wednesday. Wow, interviews, panels, and podcasts. Alisha spent 11 years as an award-winning internal wholesaler in the life insurance industry. Anyone who's listening, I am struggling with my tongue today, so I just want to put that out there. I apologize to Alisha. Early in her career in corporate America, Alisha became a 500-hour certified yoga teacher and founded Greensboro Downtown Yoga. While juggling a successful full-time job and running her own business, Alisha discovered the tools she used to spark creative endeavors and bring mindfulness into her days were the very tools that made her most successful in all other aspects of her life. She is a certified Positive Psychology Practitioner and recently named one of the Triad Business Journal's 40 Under 40. Alisha is an avid traveler, writer, and speaker who enjoys working with anyone who has a propensity to take action toward their dreams. So welcome, Alisha.
Thank you so much for having me. It is such an honor to be here today.
Well, thank you so much for putting up with me because I don't know what's the matter with my tongue today.
We all have those days.
Absolutely. So, Alisha, can you share some of your story and your path that's brought you here?
Yeah. So it's such a long and winding path. So I'm going to give you the most abridged version that I can. But I went to this liberal arts Quaker college, and I just went in bright-eyed and bushy-tailed thinking that I was going to come out and save the world, right? I mean, how many college students do that? Like, you think like, whatever I'm going to do, I'm going to come out of this and it's going to I'm just going to make the world a better place. And you have all this enthusiasm. And then I had no idea what I wanted to do in the world or how to even make that happen. And so I was pretty lost and untethered for a long time. So I worked I was in management at a grocery store for a little while and hated that and ended up at the insurance company where I was in internal sales and, internal wholesaler. I mean, I don't even want to try to go into what that is, but the short answer of what that is that I was tied to a phone all day. I had an external counterpart. We were a team and we helped financial advisors help their clients with life insurance. That's basically what it was. And I mean, for someone like me, it was soul sucking, like in a gray cubicle, right? Like I had to be there at a certain time. I felt like I was in prison. I imagine that's somewhat what a prison feels like. And it's like one of those things where it's a phenomenal job, just not for me, like for someone else. And I think that's it's a common story that people have, like just not quite being in the right fit. And so during that time, I was like consuming every single self-help book I could get my hands on. I was starting down the rabbit hole of yoga. And I had been taking yoga for a really long time. And I decided to do a teacher training. And I ended up, while working this very intense full-time job, opening and running a business where I was responsible for many classes, teaching class before work and after work and on the weekends, and running payroll for the other teachers on my lunch break of my job and writing newsletters. And I was decently successful at the yoga studio in that it's even and through pandemic, it's changed hands, but it's still going. And there were a lot of tools, right? All those self-help books, all of those yoga workshops that I went on, and yoga is really a healing modality. And it's a way of life. It's not just a physical practice. It's meditation. It's trying to be a good person. Like it's all of that. And I realized that all of that was what made me successful. And I had coaches in while I was starting these businesses and trying to figure out what was next. And I started to think, I've got, my degree was psychology. And I started thinking, right, these coaches are great, but I think I can do what they're doing better. Like that starts to creep in where I'm like, I think I have like now that I've been completely through it, I think I could take other people through this faster and more easily than I've just done it. And so it turned into me doing the positive psychology certification, which was like a very long 7-month-long program. And so I use writing and Reiki and energy and meditation and yoga to work with my clients.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. And it's true, the sort of the windy road we take to get where we are. Lucky or kudos to those, maybe to the people who know right from the start that, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm going to do my own thing. I wish that I had the strength to do that back then. I started and stopped and started and stopped for many, many years. So when you finally move into that and you can feel into everything that you do and how you can help people in the best possible way, it's so important.
I 100% agree with that. And, it's funny because you think like, all right, I'm going to become an entrepreneur and I'm going to do this thing. And then that's its own windy road too, right? It's not a straight line.
No, it's not. No, it's not. It's a very curved one too, but it feels more purposeful somehow. It feels more purposeful. Yeah.
More purposeful.
What does healing with creativity mean to you?
You were so kind to share some of these questions. And so I was taking my own medicine, and I was using them as my writing prompts this morning. And I'll tell you, I really believe that the meaning of life is to love. And so creativity to me is the natural, it's how we express love. So it's everything, right? So when we use creativity to express our love to others as well as ourselves, that's a healing practice.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how I view it. It's like, if I write a letter to someone else, I'm doing something for them, but I'm doing something for me as well. That's a creative practice. If I cook a meal for, my partner, that's another both and healing practice. And I don't think creativity is just arts, right? And I know you've probably talked about this with so many different people, but I have a very broad brush stroke on what creativity is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's important. And I think that's part of why it is so healing. When we have that broad definition, it can become a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I personally believe that creativity is in everything we do, right? Yes. And we get caught up in the art aspect of creativity, but creativity is literally, cooking a meal, it's gardening, it's creating a spreadsheet, it's, starting a business. Creativity is in everything we do. So yeah, I think absolutely. I love that, creativity and love connection. I really like that.
It's how we get dressed in the morning. It's, do I want to bell on my bike or not? Like all of that is creativity.
Yeah, it truly is. So yeah, I love that. I didn't even think about the bell on my bike. It's law here, so you have to have a bell, but I have a really cute pink bell. So, with a unicorn on it. So, that.
creativity. Or, and I'm also a runner. And so sometimes I'll go through Strava and see the routes that people have done, and they have designed their run so it makes like
a design, pictures and
I'm
things.
like, wow, the creativity and innovation that went into that I never even would have thought about blows my mind.
I was happy that mine showed, like, I've started a new walking app, and it showed me like the path, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. It was a square, but it was like, I'm like, oh, look, right. It showed what I did. I never thought, oh, I could do a star, or I could do that's a whole other level of thinking I'm not prepared for. But
yeah, me either. But I'm glad
I
other people
know, exactly. I love that. I love that. So, what inspires you in the work that you do?
This question is so interesting to me because I wanted this, and now that I've got it, I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but I feel like my work is a calling, and I feel like I can't do it even if I don't want to do it anymore because I'm called to do it. I feel like I'm now in service to this work, like group coaching and individual coaching and creating, I do moon ceremonies, and I can't not do it. I don't know how to explain it. So it's this deep responsibility that I know I have something to offer that's making a difference in the lives of others. And sometimes I would like to quit because it'd be a heck of a lot easier to go get a paycheck somewhere else than do this work. But I just feel like I am in service to this message that I have and to this work that I have. So that's what inspires me. And every once in a while, I'll get a really kind note from a client, and that just makes me so happy.
I find those come on the days when I'm like, okay, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. And it's not because I don't love what I do, because I absolutely do, but you just get so exhausted from all the pieces. If I could just, talk to people and do the coaching and the course is great, but I have to do the marketing and I have to do the editing and I have to do, and it's like, that's what drags me down. So then on the days when I'm feeling like, oh my God, I can't go on, an email pops up in my box and I'm like, oh, that's why I do what I do.
And I had that exact experience yesterday. I was like over it. I'm like, I'm ready to like throw in the towel. And then in the evening, I just got this very kind testimonial about one of my programs. And I was like, oh, that's the difference that I'm making. That's why this work is important.
Yeah, it is. And so to those of you who send me those messages, just know you keep me going. You keep me going.
Same. And it's not that they do keep me going, but it is that internal knowing that this is the path I'm supposed to be on. And I will say, I know what it feels like to not know what, like, I spent a really long time not knowing, and I would choose this over that any day. And this has its own set of problems.
Yes, I agree. And I feel the most fulfilled that I've ever felt in my life. And, knowing how many people I've helped and how many more people I can help. I absolutely. But yes, it does come with its own set of problems. And that's why you have entrepreneur friends that you can talk to on a regular basis that help you through that as they're going through the same thing and remind you why you're doing what you do. And those great messages. So this is a question that comes up often for healers and creatives about monetizing the work you do. So what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I absolutely think we should monetize the work that we do, without question. I mean, that is one thing that I'm really, it's like a line in the sand for me. I mean, we pay doctors. A lot of clergy gets paid by their congregation. And if someone has a skill and someone else is using that skill, it should be paid for. And creativity and healing, it's a skill, and it's something that takes investment to hone. It's something that takes practice. and diligence, and we have to support that just like anything else. So to me, it is not something that any of us should ever feel ashamed of. We should not be ashamed of our rates. We should not be ashamed of asking for what we need and what we believe that those services are worth. And hopefully it was explained to me this way, like, we're kind of medicine women, right? Like, we're medicine women, and medicine women are sustained by their community. And so we're going to find out really quick whether or not our community is supporting us or not by whether or not people are able to financially support us in the rates that we're asking for. And so you can play with those back and forth, but we're always worth it. Our services are needed. We're always worth that.
Yeah. I think I totally agree. And it's been interesting to me. And I find especially a lot of creatives and healers, as they're starting out, have this idea that they should just be giving it away. It comes easily to them and people need it, so they should give it away. But that, I don't think, helps anyone, right? Because there's that energy exchange, and in our culture, it's money, right? And it can be something else. There are bartering and different things you can do, but our culture is very much about being able to pay your bills and having the money to do so. And so if you're going to have an energy exchange, it's typically around money. And so I think it's super important that we have that, and recognize our worth as well as your worth. If you're buying a service, you're valuing yourself enough to pay for that service.
Absolutely.
Right?
I think it's like, so I'll often do scholarships to the work that I'm doing. I've benefited from scholarships in the past. And it's not that I don't think that it should be accessible. And there are ways to make it accessible. But often, if I've simply given something away, it's not valued in the same way as if someone had put down money for that thing. It's not treated with the same energetic receiving as someone that's exchanging for it with something with some skin in the game. And so I think that is an important piece of the exchange.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So then, what is the creative healing modality that you use most for yourself?
Writing. Writing. I write every single day. Julia Cameron is, like, in my mind, a saint. I use the Artist Way as a Bible, and she's just absolutely, her work is, I'm just blown away by the body of work she's put out into the world, and what a difference. I mean, the Artist Way has sold like something like over 70 million copies. It's been out since the 70s. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. And oftentimes I don't think I even know what I'm feeling about something until I've written about it. And so I write to understand myself, because how can I go out there and help other people? And the word help, I have a complicated relationship. I don't know that I help other people. I just get to guide folks into seeing what's already there. But how can I do that if I'm not grounded and centered, if I haven't explored the depths of my own soul and my own feelings and thought critically about what I believe in? And so I have a practice. I have shelves and shelves and shelves and shelves of journals full of morning pages and thoughts. And that has been the most grounding compass in my life.
And writing for me, I mean, I have creativity in so many different ways, and I do a lot of different sort of art therapy type practices, but writing is always a part of it. Journaling is so important. I lead a morning program with journaling and meditation, and then every exercise I give, I'm always like, okay, now journal about that. What what are the thoughts? So yeah, I find it super important too, and I think it's so important to do, and I do it every day, and recommend to everyone to do it every day.
Absolutely. Oh, and you know what? Along those lines, can I go back to our last question really quick about monetizing things? Yeah. I absolutely think that your healing modality, your creative modality, it's absolutely okay and should be charged for. And I think it is really important to have at least one creative practice that is purely for you, that you are not trying to monetize. So I think like, if you get into this world and it becomes your sole thing that you're doing, if as an entrepreneur, you start to try to figure out how you can monetize like everything that you do. And I think that it is super important to hold something back for you, to protect it in a way that it's not for everyone else. So over the last 12 months, I have reclaimed a painting practice. So I watercolor at least once a week, and I'm not bad at it. And I've had a lot of requests for folks to buy them, and I've had to say no. This practice is just for me. It's just to heal my soul and to express love. I mean, I'll write letters to people I love on the back and send it off to them, and that's fine, but that's still mine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I just think that that's an important piece of like, keep something that is just for you.
Yeah, I have to say I agree with that. For me, like I do a create with me on Thursday nights, and I often work in my art journal, but I also have pages that I do just alone. And my partner's always like, well, record it. And I'm like, no, I don't want that. This is for me. This is my time. Right. So yeah, you need to have that practice that's your own. Yeah. Where you just get to explore yourself. Yeah. I absolutely agree with that. So what are you most proudest of in your life?
This is a really tough question. I made a list of things that I'm proud of, and I don't know what I am most, well, okay. I was in corporate America at the same job for just shy of a decade, and in the same industry for 11 years, and making the decision to completely walk away without a spouse or a partner or even a roommate at the time. And because, so following my intuition to
Mhm.
move to the next chapter of my life, even though it was very scary, and even though it came with a lot of risk and a lot of negative things, um, that's probably what I'm most proud of so far.
Yeah, and that's a great one. You know, I talk to so many people all the time, and they're just so fearful, right? And I've done it myself. You know, I've done a business on the side, and then it's like as it starts to grow, you get panicky, and you don't make the decision, right? Um, and so when you decide to do something because you know it's the best thing for you, when you truly know that and you do it, right? Whether it's starting a business, whether it's making a move or a relationship ending or starting or whatever it is, when you know that that's right for you and you do it, that's huge. So I commend you on that. I commend you.
Thanks for asking the question.
Well, we often don't think about our own selves and give ourselves sort of a pat on the back for the things that we've done. And it's so important, I think, to do that, because as women especially, we tend to sort of brush those things off because it's just a given every day. We give, and we, you know, what we do. We do it because we have to do it, or whatever. But what are we proud about? What are we so grateful that we did? What are we like, what do we want to share? And yeah, I think it's so important to do that.
You know,
Yeah. So,
the thing that I'm next most important of is probably my podcast. So, and I mean, you're doing it right now. You get to uplift the voices of so many of us, right? By providing this platform. And,
mhm.
you know, I don't know how long you've been podcasting, but I've been podcasting for almost 2.5 years, and, you know, like 113 episodes. And I think that would be my second greatest accomplishment, is being able to have a platform for those voices. And if I hadn't listened to my intuition, I never would have gotten to that place.
Mhm.
And so I just think that being able to reflect in this way about what you're proud of, it can help you stay connected to your purpose and your why as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, my podcasts were just over a year. now we'll be closer to a year and a half. And yeah, it's been, amazing. And connecting with people. That's my favorite part of the podcast. And is connecting with people and their stories. And yeah, I love it. And then I get great messages from people who are like, oh, I listened to this one and thank you for that. And I love it.
It's nourishing, right? Yeah.
Those are the things that when you are in business for yourself, you need. Yes, the money I need to pay my bills, but also I need those, not kudos, but to know that it's making a difference, right? To know that people appreciate and are being helped by the things that are being said. That's what I need. Yeah.
Agreed.
So send me those messages. I always ask for the messages. Send me the messages. Okay. So if you could change one aspect of our society through your work, what would it be?
This question is so rich. I love it. I love it. And I something strongly on my mind this year, probably on the minds of many of us over the past, we'll say, 18 months or so, year and a half, would be dismantling systems of oppression. So any system that keeps someone of color and someone indigenous, someone, a woman, like anything that keeps people down, I would love to be a part of dismantling that. And I think in a very, very, very small micro way, I hope my work does that, because I think that my work is so much about introspection and going inward and becoming self-aware and becoming aware. Who are we and how do we operate within these systems that, like, how are we contributing to them or not contributing to them? So I hope that in a very tiny way, I am helping to break those systems down and build up new systems in another way. So that would be my biggest hope. I also just want us all to be kind to one another.
Yeah. And that's one that I go to quite often. It's like, can we just be nice to one another? Like, why does it have to be this way? But yes. And changing, or maybe changing one person's mind because they hear a different side of the story. Because absolutely, I think it's so important to stand up for those who are being oppressed, and to learn more ourselves. And I have to say, last year with the Black Lives Movement was a huge eye opener for me in my own part in it, right? Because I thought I'd always been really open and inclusive, and when you look at our cultural language and just so many different aspects of the things in our day-to-day lives that we take for granted that are not okay, and so I think as more and more people start to speak out, we can join and uprise or uplift their voices, right? So that we don't have to speak necessarily for them, but to help them share their message. And then we can also just encourage others to change their thinking a little bit. Try shifting, even one idea.
Absolutely. And, so another thing that along these lines that I think about is that, and I'm sure you see this, especially when you're working one-on-one, is that every single person is going through something hard. And I know it's become a meme. I know it's become many memes. I know it can feel almost trite to say, but every single person has something in their lives happening that they are really struggling and grappling with. And everybody's degree of hard is different, but it doesn't make it less hard. And if we can remember that about one another, and I think that as a coach, we get to see that so uniquely, because it's like it's held right up in front of us, like a crystal ball in front of you and the client, of like what that hard actually is. And when we can remember that and honor that, and it just makes everything better for everyone.
Yeah. And it's so true. It's so true that, most people who lash out are coming from a place of pain, or people who, you know, are not too, but will pull back from things and don't engage also from a place of maybe trauma and things like that. And so understanding that, you know, not all people want to behave in the way they do. You know, for instance, I have, I'm on the autism spectrum. So once I learned that, it really helped me to open up sort of how I communicate, how I behave and react to things. But, you know, getting people to understand my thinking sometimes was difficult before I understood it. And so as we start to explore ourselves, but yes, everybody has something, whether they know it or not. And I don't think most people want to go through their life angry and hurt and upset and depressed. Like, people don't want to go through life that way. But they need to dig into what is that, and, you know, and so that's how we can help them, even if it's listening to a podcast, right? If they're, you know, if they're not able or willing to come one-on-one or even to group, but will listen to a podcast or watch something that you put on YouTube or whatever it is, right? So I think it's important work we do for that reason. Absolutely. Yeah. So imposter syndrome. So have you struggled with this? And if so, have you gotten over it? And how, if you did?
So there is a fellow Canadian, Tanya Geisler. I don't know if you have heard of her work, but she's in Toronto area. And I met her at a writing retreat, actually, where she came to speak to us. And her work is all about the imposter complex. And what she explained to us is that any person who is working hard and trying to do a good job, if you are not an imposter, you struggle with the imposter. You've probably struggled with the imposter syndrome. And it is not so. True imposters they're not struggling with this. So like that alone helped me a lot, like learning that piece. But that imposter complex, what Tanya described, is that it's designed to keep us out of action and to keep, and so when I think about that, I'm like, well, I can't do anything that's important if I stay out of action. It helps me realize that everybody feels this way at some point in their life's work, and you might encounter it more than once. And so what is it trying to tell me? Is it trying to tell me, oh, you're missing something? Okay, let's go figure out what that is and bring it in. Or stay out of action. This could be, this could be vulnerable. This could, take you away from
danger.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? Danger. Let's just move forward.
Yeah. And what our brain perceives as danger nowadays is reflective of what it perceived of danger, thousands of years ago. And so we have to understand that and be able to work sort of against it almost, because, we don't have saber-toothed tigers jumping out at us. So it's okay if we try something new. It's okay if we take a new path. It's all right. Yeah.
It's talking to my best friend, who I love. We lovingly refer to each other as platonic life partners, best friends. And she's like my person. I'm her person. And she and I were talking today, and she said, no lion, no tiger, no bear. And that's true, right? So no matter what it is that I'm scared of doing or afraid of doing, there's actually no real threat. Like, I'm not being chased by a tiger, and I don't need to try to like run up a tree away from a bear and hope that it can't climb, that nothing is actually chasing me. And when I think about it from that perspective, then I can flip that question of like, now, okay, if I do this, what's the best that could happen, right? So instead of going where my lizard part of the brain wants me to go, which is worst case scenario, let's flip that and think about, if I do this, what's best case scenario? What's the best that could happen?
Yeah. And that's an important shift to have, right? To be able, and it doesn't, like, it's not a shift where you turn it on and then it's a constant. You're constantly, with every step along the way, having to make that conscious decision to, ignore the brain part, feel into the gut part, the love part, and move forward, the intuitive part, right? So yeah, absolutely. So do you have an inspirational quote that you live by?
I do. I do actually. It is Le Petit Prince is one of my favorite books, and I'm not even going to
Mm,
try to pronounce Sweet Anton's last name, but it's from The Little Prince, and it is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is truly
mm.
essential is invisible to the eye. Depending on what translation you read of that book, it's along those lines because I saw a different translation of that quote recently. And that would be the one that I think I've tried to live by since probably high school.
Mhm.
Just when I let my heart and love guide me, I feel better. And when I
Mhm.
let fear guide me, I don't feel as good. And so it's that gut check of like, am I listening to the fear or am I listening to my heart?
Mhm. Yeah, so important. So is there anything else you'd like to add for our listeners that maybe we haven't discussed today?
I'm just so grateful to be here. Creativity is everything.
Mhm.
Don't think that creativity has to be painting or drawing or singing or dancing. Um, and don't wait for the perfect time to start. If there's something that you want to do, just jump in and do it because there's no such thing as a perfect time. And writing is healing, dancing is healing, even if it's just in your kitchen. Going for a walk and noticing the color of the trees is a creative act, and just jump in and your life will be richer because of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Well, I want to thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. To our listeners, we will see you again next week. And in the meantime, I wish for you amazingly creative days. Are you a daily journaler? Do you want more creativity in your day? We have 2 great creativity journals to start your day with. One for people who already have a journaling practice, and one for people who are new to journaling. Both are an amazing way to start your day. Both make the perfect gift for a person in your life. Check out Have an Amazingly Creative Day and How Do I Have an Amazingly Creative Day? Both currently available on Amazon. Click the link below to purchase yours now.